Well, welcome in, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me here on this Sunday evening. I hope everybody had just a fantastic weekend out there. Beautiful one here in southern Maine. Weather is definitely getting nicer. We are knee deep in mud season at this point. It's that beautiful mixture of, melting snow and mud, and it's lovely. So, we can open our windows during the day and it's the little things that you miss, after such a long winter that we've had. But I do hope everybody had a great weekend. A whole lot of hockey here in New England between the Boston Bruins, the Maine Mariners, and of course the UMaine Black Bears. We're going to touch on a little bit of all of that on this episode because it's just a whole lot to unpack. Some good, some bad, and some ugly, right? It was a little mixture of everything for you Maine hockey fans out there. And then tonight we are going to discuss the Boston Bruins and potential head coaches going into 2025, 2026. I think it's pretty safe to say we can punt on the rest of the season for the Bruins. Yeah, I know they're close, right? They're still close to that playoff line, but let's be honest, they're not making it in, not after what we've seen the last couple of games. So I think it's time to kind of turn our attention to 25, 26. I was talking to a buddy a couple of days ago and talking about, team needs, and he was going through, oh, well, we need this kind of player, we need this kind of, right winger over here, this score. And I kind of stopped him. I said, what about a coach? Like, we don't really have a coach right now. Like, say what you want to about Joe Sacco, and we'll get into it. But I think that might be the most primary need that the Boston Bruins will be looking to fill as we get into the next season. But let's start, first of all, with the good. Let's start with the good from this weekend. The UMaine Black Bears in their Hockey East quarterfinal game up in Bangor, winning this one 7-1 against UMass Lowell. It was just a dominant effort by the Black Bears, outshooting UMass 42-28 in this one. 10-8 in that first period, shots on goals for Maine, 21 shots for Maine in the second period to 11 for UMass, and 11-9 for Maine in that third period. Boya, 27 saves on 28 shots, just looking brilliant as he has all season. Keeping that goalie trend up here for UMaine. They've just have such a great heritage with their netminders, and he is certainly holding his own. Interesting game, though. Some questionable calls in that first period. No score after one, but Maine starts to pour it on in that second period with was the Breen Jurcevic, and I think you pronounce it Sully Skol or School. But all three getting on the board there in that first period. One of those being a power play goal, and then third period just more the same. Friel adding one to make it 4-0. Nick Anderson does get on the board for UMass to make it 4-1. And Harrison Scott, Josh Nadeau, and Ross Mitten all with goals in the third period, making this just a runaway blowout game for your Black Bears. Awesome to see it. A whole lot of excitement. It was an exciting day for UMaine as well. The men's basketball team was in the American East final. Unfortunately, they didn't win that. Weren't able to punch their ticket to the big dance. I don't think, and I may have to rely on my old buddy Lucas McNally, who is a much bigger basketball fan than me. I don't believe the UMaine Black Bears program has ever been to the NCAA tournament. I think that's probably as close as they've ever gotten. But they've got some things cooking there. But anyway, just an exciting weekend all around for Orono. And of course, we got the next game coming up for the Black Bears. This one will be at the TD Garden Thursday, the 20th. Puck drop there at 7:30 against Northeastern. This will be the Hockey East semifinal matchup. A game I'm sure Maine will be favored, but you get to this point, all these teams are really good. Of course, the big news out of the weekend: BC getting knocked out of this tournament. So, um, you don't want to look by Northeastern, that's for sure. But you have an opportunity if you're the Black Bears to win this Hockey East championship. Should be a lot of fun. I did see it was going to be on ESPN Plus. I'm not sure where else the game is going to air, but I'm certainly hoping to have myself in front of a TV watching that one. Should be a lot of fun. And yeah, you just hope this team can go on a run this year. Last year's, national tournament, pretty disappointing where they get knocked out early. I think you gotta you got to get to the Final Four, I think, to feel really good because this team is just so good. They played so well as a team all year. They're not the most loaded team. They have plenty of great players, but they're not loaded like a BC is this year. But man, they can certainly hold their own. So it should be a lot of fun to see. So there's the good. There's the good. Thank you, UMaine, for giving us some good. I wouldn't call this the bad, but it's not really bad from this weekend, not awful from this weekend, but the Maine Mariners, they kinda have to fit that bad category, despite the fact it was a three-point weekend for the Maine Mariners. Let's just take a look at the game sheets for this one, guys, going back to Friday night, these games up in Adirondack, Maine getting a 4-2 victory, in this one. Maine getting outshot here, actually 29-25. Adirondack 8-5 in that first period. Adirondack again 12-8 in the second period, and then Maine getting the better of it, 12-9 in the third period. Power plays 1 for 1 for Maine, 0 for 1 for Adirondack. So the referees clearly had dinner reservations in Glens Falls for Friday night. Wanted to get the boys out of there as quick as they could. DeVoe gets the scoring going, his 14th of the year, assisted by Bean and Kalmakoff. It's Lampa in the second period, his 8th of the year. Sarlone tops him with the assist there. McDonald chipping in that second period with his 6th, tops him and Tremaine again with those assists. Going to the third period, it's Hudson with his 10th of the year. McCallum with the helper there. O'Neill gets on the board for Adirondack at that 10-minute mark, and then it was, I think it's Miller or Muller. I think it's Miller, assisted by Les and Fox, making it 4-2. Kind of made it a little bit interesting at the end, but good solid win for Maine. Arvanitis in net, 27 saves on 29 shots. And at that point, I think you crept to, I think, 9 points behind Reading at that point, if I'm not mistaken. But that's where you are there. And then you go to last night's game, again, up in Adirondack, Maine losing this one in overtime, 5-4. Getting outshot again, this one 28-26. It was 11-8 in the first period for Adirondack, 10-8 in the second for Maine, 8-7 in the third for Maine. Of course, 2-0 in the overtime and shots. Adirondack getting both of those. Maine 1 for 3 on the power play and 0 for 2 for Adirondack. Tough one here, guys. Um, you just you feel like you had an opportunity here. Adirondack getting the first one there, but then Maine with McCallum's his 21st in the first period. So you end that first period, tied 1-1. It's Thompson and Kalmakoff with the helpers there on the McCallum goal. Hudson gets his 11th in the second period. McCallum and DeVoe on that one. Zeke with his 4th of the year in the third period. McCallum with his 22nd of the year. DeVoe with the helper there in the third. So let's see, you get up, what is it, 4-2, right, at that point? Um, yeah, you're 1, 2, yeah, it's 4-2. And then Adirondack just pours it on there, gets the Fox goal at the 11:57 mark. Is it Philman, the 15:07, so you get kind of under 5 minutes to go, can't hold on to the lead. And then, of course, Adirondack with the game winner. You do get a point, so not all is lost, but Meyer in that 23 saves on 28 shots, so kind of definitely a rough third period for him. And listen, guys, you need every single you know uh, you just need every single point you can get. So you're up in that game in the third period, can't close it out. Awfully tough for the boys there. Normally, a 3-point weekend would feel really good. On the road, you get 3 points. That's great. It's actually you take that, but where you are in the standings, where you are in the season, especially at 4-2 in the third, makes it really difficult to swallow that one. To date, the team is 24-31-4, 52 points now. They are 6-3-1 their past 10, so they have played well here down the stretch. But you still, after this weekend, you find yourself 12 points out of fourth place with 13 games to go, 26 possible points, and you still have two teams in front of you. Again, as we've been saying the last couple weeks, with every passing weekend, the math gets harder and harder and harder. I still just don't see this happening for the club. I love the energy, though. I love how they're pushing. They had a chance to win 3 in a row had they won last night. They, of course, smoke. Was it Norfolk in that day game they had on Tuesday? And then, of course, the win on Friday. So you felt like, oh man, you can finally get 3 in a row. didn't happen for the boys. Of course, before this game, defenseman Zach Massacott does get the call up phoned to the AHL's Belleville. That's the Senators AHL franchise. Great for Massacott. He has been such a steady Eddie for the team this year. Of course, comes in October, so kind of like what a day or two before the season started, they bring him on board, and he's just been so good for us. 58 games played, 1 goal, 9 assists, for 10 points for him. Um, for all the kind of at times defensive struggles for the team and all the movement. Massacott has been, like I said, very steady in there for you. So tough loss, but great for him. Like you got to feel great for the player getting a chance at the AHL. He's been up there before, so this won't be his first taste of it, but he earned it. He earned it. I saw on social media some Mariner fans being pissy about it and being upset and actually blaming Wallen for this, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. How do you blame a head coach for allowing one of your players an opportunity? Not even allowing it, like he's being requested. Like you don't block somebody from promotion. It's good luck getting any other players to want to play for you if you do that, right? If you become that guy that doesn't help promote your players and get them up to the A. So, yeah, I know it's kind of stinks to lose him, but this is what it's all about. These guys are trying to, get up there to that next level. So nobody should be upset. Listen, if you're in a actual playoff run, if you're looking at the Kelly Cup this year and you lose a guy like that, like, yeah, I could understand being a little salty, but still, it doesn't justify the anger that I saw online, um, about this. Like he's uh he's earned it. And this is what these guys are here to do. They're trying to get up to that next level. So we do have a couple of kind of transactions here as well for the Mariners. Of course, they trade Theo Calvis down to the Orlando Solar Bears. That happened on Friday. They do get the future considerations in return. Calvis played the 8 games for the team, just the 1 assist. So, good luck to him. Kind of a journeyman at this point in the ECHL. And then, of course, the team does sign right shot defenseman Nate. Is it Schweitzer? I think is how you pronounce it. Signed on the 13th. Of course, coming out of college, Lake Superior State University. In this season, he played 34 games for them, 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points. Has skated in the 2 games for Maine so far. So, young kid will be curious. Of course, this happens every year about this time as colleges are kind of winding things down. Some players make that jump and get a few games in, get their feet wet, and we'll see if Nate's a fit for next year. Be very curious. Next game for the boys will be on Friday, the 21st. Last game against Worcester for the year. That will be at the Cross Insurance Arena in downtown Portland, Maine at 7:15. So should be a good one there. If you have any prayer of making the playoffs, Mariners, you need this one. You need it in regulation. This is one of the teams you're chasing. This is a big 4 points. You lose this one, mathematically, I'm not sure where you're at, but you're getting really close to probably being eliminated. So, um, should be a big one. Should be a big one. So hopefully we can pack that arena out. I'm hoping to be there myself for that one. So should be a good time. And now for the ugly. Let's talk about the ugly. Had the good with the Black Bears. They had kind of the bad or not so bad, but kind of not great for the Mariners. Um, and now the ugly. Holy smokes, guys! The Boston Bruins, brutal 2 losses here in a row, both against divisional opponents, Ottawa and Tampa Bay. Just, for all the optimism and all the fun it was to see them beat Tampa, beat Florida in the last couple, feeling like, hey, we still got a chance. We're not dead yet. All that narrative really just dashed, completely dashed away over these last 2 games. Let's go back to the 13th. That's a 6-3 loss at Ottawa. Of course, a 4 point game. Ottawa in one of those wild card positions. You're down 4-1 after one period. It's one of those games where I was really happy that I had recorded it and was watching it later. That fast forward button, baby, that came in so handy in this one because 4-1 after one, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and watch every single play of this game knowing how it was going. But just such a sloppy start in that first period. You couldn't find your legs. You couldn't complete a pass. It was rough to watch. And Swayman just looked very out of sorts. He's had a rough year. The team's had a rough year. He's probably played better than his numbers, but this is one where Yeah, he didn't have it, and he gets pulled after that first period. Alls I can say about this one objectively is good on Ottawa. Listen, guys, they understood their position of both teams, where they're at, what this game meant to them for their playoff standings. And as much as I hate it as a Bruins fan, but as a hockey fan, it was actually just kind of awesome to see an Ottawa team, A, be in this position, playing meaningful games down the stretch and playing well when it matters most. I think they've been one of the hottest teams coming out of Four Nations. So great to see. It's been years since we've seen an Ottawa team play this well. Always good. I've always said it. Always great when you see these Canadian markets, especially ones that have been down for a while, playing good, getting those fan bases riled up. Again, sucks as a Boston fan, but good for the league and good for Ottawa. And good on Allmark, right? Of course, the numbers, that was 880 save percentage, 22 on 25 saves for him, but he made some great A's, some tremendous saves in this one. And optically, whole baby, like Swayman struggling on the other side. He's getting pulled after one. Then you have Allmark on the other end, making all kinds of great saves. Just optically, this was a tough one for a Bruins fan. And of course, all the narrative followed it in the next day of, oh, did they trade the wrong guy? Did they part ways with the wrong guy? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that conversation because I do think both goalies are going to be fine. I think that Swayman's going to be fine moving forward, going into next year. But that's a whole other conversation we can have for another day. But I do absolutely understand optically how awful that was as a Bees fan. So let's turn to it was the last night on the 15th, 6-2 loss at home this time against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a healthier Lightning team that we faced a few days back, about a week ago. This game was all about the second period. Simply put, the better team just simply established their will over a lesser opponent in this one. It's exactly what happened, or what a Tampa team should do to this version of the Boston Bruins. 0 shots on goal in the second period for Boston. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about Tampa's dominance, their puck possession, their puck pressure, and just really the Bees kind of just lack of consistent ability to dictate play. It's just not there. Just not there with this group, right? Um, and overall in this game, you get outshot 40-12. 40-12. Awful. You're not going to win many times in this league with that kind of a number. Listen, the first period they were great. They were in good shape. They get it to 1-1. But they just don't do anything in this game well enough to give yourselves a chance to beat this Bolts team that's just playing really good. And hey, they've still got a shot at first place in the division too. So just a couple of really deflating losses. I think if you had any thought or hope that maybe, just maybe, this team is going to pull out a wild card, man, after these two, it's awfully hard to think much about that. I know statistically, 4 points back, anything can happen, blah, blah, blah. I understand it. I don't see it. Just don't see it. Right now, you are 30-8, 68 points, and seventh in the Atlantic Division. Only 14 games left. And listen, as a diehard Bruins fan like I am, I'm gonna say this, like, thank you God there's only 14 of these left. I only have to sit through 14 more games. I can't remember the last time feeling that way as such a big hockey fan and as a big hot Bruins fan as I am. I truly am like, I can't wait for this to be over. Like, bad, man. It's just bad. Like last night, turning that game on, put the kiddo to bed, watching it on recording. I was like, I really didn't want to step and watch it because I kind of knew what we were getting into. Um, it will be nice. And again, I'm gonna be sound very sarcastic here, but it's gonna be nice when this is over and we can get to the playoffs as a hockey fan, as hockey NHL hockey fans, and watch good hockey again. Because we've watched some really bad hockey, with these bees this year. So um sucks, but again, it is what it is. I just say put a fork in them. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. Of course, you do have one of those 14 games will be tomorrow night, home against the Buffalo Sabres, 7 p.m. puck drop from the Garden. Yes, winnable game, but nothing would surprise me in this one. Nothing would surprise me at all. So there's your good, your bad, and your ugly for the weekend. Want to move on now to a topic again I've been thinking about now really I'd say since Monty got fired, right? And I've talked about it a little bit on this channel over the last couple of months, but just looking at where do the Boston Bruins go with their bench next season? We know Joe Sacco is in that position right now as an interim head coach. We know the job he's done. He's really the first candidate I guess I'll talk about here. Of course, Sacco previously head coach in Colorado. That was back in 2009, 2013. He had 130, 134, and 30 record. And of course, has been an assistant in Boston since 2014 until just, of course, November, getting the interim role. He was put in a tough spot this season, with Monty's dismissal and the team's, I'd say, just overall lack of any sort of, I say, defensive structure, any structure really with this season. I feel like he's probably done the best he could, overall. I'm going to pause here for a second. Just remember one game, one of the losses they had, and it was just one of the really bad losses. I remember him going to the post game presser saying, "Oh, I didn't think it was that deflating at all of a loss." I think it was one of those one goal games where they lose it late, lose it in the third period. And I just remember saying to myself, like, feeling so deflated as I was as a fan, like, how could you possibly say that, Joe Sacco, that wasn't a deflating loss? I wish I could remember which game it was, but you know, pick your game, right? But I remember him saying that, and I just thought right there, I don't think that's the kind of thing you want to say, if you want to be a head coach in this league. He was probably talking off the cuff. Didn't feel like it was deflating to him, but um, I just remembered that one. You also have to keep in mind though that they've been coaching one coach down, since the firing of Montgomery, right? Like while they replaced Sacco when Monty was fired, the Bruins didn't replace Sacco himself, right? So they're down an assistant coach. And this is another sneaky way that the Boston Bruins ownership is saving money this year. You know, would it have made a difference had they had another, assistant coach on that bench? Are those other guys, Leach and Kelly, doing more work than they probably should? Does it make a difference? Certainly makes a difference in the pocketbook for the Jacobs family. So, before you just turn and want to blame the players or blame the coaches, just remember that. Remember the ownership made a decision to go one coach down for the bulk of the season. Whether it made a difference or not, that was a decision they made. Um, Sacco's not my guy. As much as I love him as an assistant, he's been here forever. He's a Massachusetts native. We get all this stuff, right? You like him. I mean, I like him. I like him as an assistant, though. I just don't think he's the guy that's going to lead the charge for this team moving forward. We'll see. We'll see. He'll probably get considered. I don't see why he wouldn't, but he wouldn't be my first choice. So let's look at a few other candidates. First one on the board here I have is Jay Woodcroft. Of course, last coach in Edmonton back in 2023 was fired there November 12th of 23 after just that horrific start to the season. Of course, this is an Edmonton team that ends up winning the West, going, 7 games with Florida for the Stanley Cup. But they went through a coaching change there in November. Such an unacceptable start. I mean, I think there was a story. They think they lost in San Jose a couple games before that, and I remember listening to this on NHL radio. They where somebody overheard Woodcroft, coming out of that locker room and looking at one of his assistants and saying, "Well, that's losing to San Jose. That's probably it for us." Like he knew it was coming, right? He knew the axe was coming. But in his time there in Edmonton, coaching 133 games in the regular year, 79, 41, and 13 record. Of course, those star players he had there, good regular season record, 14 and 14 in the playoffs. Listen, he's only 48 years old. Coaches tend to perform, markedly better in their second and third jobs, which is why you see many retread coaching hires around the league. So no question he'll get another job. I think it's just a matter of when and where, and does Boston consider him? Wouldn't be shocked if he gets an interview, or if he's on the short list someplace. Uh, Go backwards. Bruce Boudreau. Bruce Boudreau, also free out there. Of course, last coach in Vancouver, was fired in January 22nd of 2023 has over 1,000 games coached in the NHL, 1,087, with a 617, 342, and 28 record, 43 and 47 record in the playoffs for him. Coached in Washington, Anaheim, Minnesota, and Vancouver. Today, he's a regular guest on NHL radio, and of course, makes his kind of rounds, throughout the NHL media circuits. So you can listen to him. Listen, he's a very well liked, well respected, well thought of person, But I do wonder, does his age, where he just turned 70 here in January, does that steer teams away, from him and to younger candidates, perhaps? I'm not sure. Um, but I guess my question here, if you're a Bruins fan, is would his positive personality, along with some of his old school mentality, old school coaching style, be a fit for this Boston group? Now, of course, right now we don't know what that room is going to look like. I mean, it's younger right now with all the trades they made. We don't know what it's going to look like post July 1, right? Does Marshy come back? Do they sign some other veteran free agents? You hope so, right? So I guess we don't really know what the room is going to look like, but with what we know right now, would someone like like Gabby be a fit for the team? I think it's possible. I wouldn't have a problem with um, again his personality, which we know. And so again, some of that old school mentality. I think they kind of need some of that kick in the ass type type of coaching right now, which I don't really think they've been getting a lot of lately. I don't think they've gotten a lot of it since Bruce Cassidy, to be honest. Love you, Monty, but um, yeah, I think the team might need a little bit of that. However, despite that, I'm not sure he's really going to be a consideration for this job. I'm not sure how high up the list he'll be for Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins brass, but certainly a name to keep in mind. Another name here, Gerard Gallant, also a kind of free agent, if you will. Last coached for the New York Rangers back in 2023. 705 games coached for him, has a 369, 262, 4 and 70 record, 31 and 29 record in the playoffs for him. Of course, did make it to Stanley Cup back in 2017-2018 season with Vegas. I think was that their first season where they got in? I think it was. And that's where Washington got that championship, got that cup. But from what I can remember of this, again, it's been a couple of years. I think it was his playoff record with the Rangers that kind of steered the team in another direction. He wasn't renewed after that year. And you just heard all year, a lot of fans, a lot of Ranger fans just frustrated by his lack of either in-game or in-season adjustments, where he just kind of stuck to his guns and didn't really make those adjustments, or was maybe slow to make adjustments. I didn't watch enough Ranger games that year to really have an opinion on it, but you just heard that from a lot of voices who watched a lot more Ranger games than I did. Again, a little bit like Bruce Boudreau, I'm not sure he'd be my first pick to be the next bench boss in Boston, but also given his track record, given just all the games he's coached, wouldn't be shocked if he's given consideration. All right, now we're going to look kind of internally here for here in Boston. Is let's talk about Jay Leach. Jay Leach, assistant coach currently for the Boston Bruins. Any Bruins fans will remember he was a head coach of the Providence Bees from 2017 to 2021, and left after that season to go be an assistant coach for the Seattle Kraken, where he was there from 21 to 2024. Of course, the Bruins hired him back to be an assistant under Monty this season. Lots of speculation they did this as they kind of had viewed him as a potential long-term replacement for Bruce Cassidy, going back to the Cassidy days. Um, at this point, do you give him the reins of this retool, reboot, whatever you want to call it? Is he ready now? 4 years now with NHL, bench experience under his belt. Does all that AHL experience mean something with what's potentially going to be a younger roster for the Bees moving forward? Um, Curious, right? Very curious to see that. How does Boston handle, how Boston, I would say, handles this may tell us a lot about their perspective on Leach. If they still view him as that head coach to be, so to speak, do they risk hiring someone else who probably brings in their own assistants? If Leach isn't given this job this time, does he bolt for other opportunities again? So, if you want a younger coach who knows the system, then Leach is probably your guy. Wouldn't be shocked here. And hey, maybe he could become the next Spencer Carberry. We never know. But I do think it'll be very telling to see what the Bruins think of him. Do they still think of him as kind of an heir apparent, or do they go a different direction and potentially risk losing him to other opportunities? Um, we'll be curious. I don't know. Hard to judge, right? I mean, unless you're going to Warrior every day and you see him on the practice ice, you can't really look at the record this year. You can't really look at everything going on with the team and necessarily point the fingers at poor assistant coaching from him or from Kelly. So many things have gone wrong, but um, Sweeney and Neely, those guys internally know. They see it every day. They know what kind of coach he is. So how they handle this with him is going to be very telling to see if their perspective has changed over the course of time. Let's talk about one of the finalists from the last time we were in this spot, David Quinn. Of course, David Quinn, an assistant coach right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins, has head coaching experience with the Rangers and, of course, with San Jose most recently. 372 games coached for him, 137, 185, and 50 overall record. Of course, as we mentioned, was a finalist when the team hired Montgomery there a couple years ago. I was a little bit surprised that he was fired after 2 years in San Jose. Now, listen, that team was expecting to lose. They were wanting to lose. They wanted that top pick. And at the time that he was fired, it just felt like, Quinn was given a raw deal. And he was kind of the sacrificial lamb after only 41 wins over 2 seasons there. Kind of, for lack of a better term, did what they wanted him to do is lose and get Celebrini. That all happened. Uh, Given the, 2 opportunities though now and some time with Sullivan in Pittsburgh, I feel he'll be another prime candidate. He's probably going to get another shot someplace. And again, the fact that he was so highly thought of in the past interviewing with Boston, I wouldn't be shocked if they look at him again and give him another chance. All right, here's a name that is going to maybe stir the pot a little bit for some people, and a name I've talked about before. But let's talk about Joel Quenneville. Joel Quenneville, free agent right now, of course, last coach in Florida during the 2021 season before being forced to step down there back on October 20th, 2021, was reinstated by the league this past July, July 1st. Of course, his resume is long, 25 years as a head coach in this league, 1,768 regular season games coached, 969 wins, 572 losses, 77 ties, and 150 overtime losses. That's between St. Louis, Colorado, of course, all those epic years in Chicago, and of course, with the Florida Panthers, 3 Stanley Cups to his name: 2010, 2013, which we all remember, and 2015, and is the second most winningest coach in NHL history. So, why in the world is this guy not working? Um, Maybe a little bit of baggage from the Chicago scandal, right? I mean, we all remember this. If you don't remember it, of course, there was an investigation um, involving a video coach, Aldrich, with some sexual assault back in May of 2010 with Chicago prospect Kyle Beach. Just an awful, horrible situation, one that should never happen. But really, what got Quenneville kind of fired was that he just kind of didn't respond to it, kind of looked the other way, nothing to see here kind of attitude. So it's kind of one of those where he didn't do anything, kind of wrong on his own, but the fact that he allowed or knew of wrong things happening, kept his mouth shut. This is a life lesson I'm trying to teach my kid, right? Like, you see something bad happening, go tell your teacher. Like, don't become part of that problem. And this is something that unfortunately got Quenneville fired and led to just such a horrible situation. So sure, baggage. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, I think a lot of fan bases are going to see that, say no way. But someone's going to hire him at some point, guys. Like, I mean, the resume speaks for itself. He's too good not to get hired again. Just case in point. Listen, I know that fan bases love taking the moral high road initially on these things, and I totally get that. Totally get that. But from what we know of the story, and yes, his lack of response was horrible. But winning makes most fan bases forget about those moral and ethical high roads that they were taking very, very quickly, right? You start winning a little bit, if a fan base knew he was going to deliver a Stanley Cup, yeah, the moral high roads go out the water, go out the door, right? You hire him instantly. For the Bruins, I think, the more concerning piece of this would be, does his coaching style really fit this group? And whether it's a younger group like it is now, or if you add to it next year, does his coaching style fit with what the team is today and what they may be post July 1? Don't know. That's more of a question, obviously, for the Boston Brass to answer. But man, he's going to be a game changer, and he's going to get hired, guys. He's going to get hired someplace. I think it's going to be really curious to see where he ends up. I would be pro Quenneville in Boston. I would. Um, I just think winning will cure a lot of these ills, and I think any Boston Bruins fan that might be pissed if he does get hired, if they start to win, you're not pissed anymore. I promise you that. I'll take all of your bets on that. I really would. I really would. Last one on my list, and this is a guy that's technically still under contract. We're going to talk about him. Mike Sullivan. Sully under contract with the Pittsburgh Penguins until the 2026-27 season. Of course, another real story career for him. 904 games coached in the regular year, 473, 306, 15, and 110 record. Of course, two Stanley Cups for him, going back to the repeats there, 2016 and 2017. Did, of course, coach in Boston, the 2003-04 season and the 05-06 seasons. And as we all know at this point, is the father-in-law of defenseman Charlie McAvoy, correct? It's like they've pounded that one. Yes, we know. We know he's the father-in-law. That was during Four Nations. I don't know how many times they brought that up. It's like, okay, people, we get it. We know. So anyway, I think for Sully, he'd be my first choice. Given the fact that Cassidy, of course, my favorite, is comfy cozy in Vegas, and McClellan, of course, signed in Detroit. I do think the Bruins missed the boat on that one, as I have stated on this channel a couple of times. But Sullivan would be just an amazing fit here for Boston for all the reasons, right? All the right reasons. He's a veteran of the league. He's won a ton, has managed superstar personalities. He's a Boston guy, like he's been here before. Whenever it is over for him in Pittsburgh, he'll be unemployed for probably give or take 3 or 4 minutes. It won't take long. There'll be a lineup of teams looking to hire him. And given the situation in Pittsburgh right now, gonna miss the playoffs for the third straight season, you do wonder, they get to the end of this season, if Sullivan doesn't want a different situation. Yes, he's been there a long time. He's, I think, really connected with those players, but at some point, you want a different situation where it's just not going well, and they've got to do some sort of a rebuild, retool, which they haven't really done yet. They're not getting any closer to a Stanley Cup. So, do they have a mutual parting of the ways by the end of the year, allowing him to seek a new team? Not out of the realm of possibility at all, in my opinion. Would not be shocked by that at all if that happened. So, as we think about that, I do have a kind of a wackadoo, kind of crazy, never going to happen prediction for this offseason. And before I bring it up, I do want to give any Penguins fans listening right now, I give you all a chance, hit that mute button. Please, listen, I care about y'all, you Yinzers out there. I don't want to upset your Sunday night or your Monday or whenever you're listening to this. I really do care about you. I don't want to upset you. So go ahead and hit that mute button. Okay. Okay, I think they've all hit the mute button now, so I think we're good. I think we're good. So anyway, my wild prediction is that Sullivan exits Pittsburgh, signs with Boston to be the next head coach. Then, with all the new draft picks Boston just got here at the trade deadline, they send a massive package of futures to Kyle Dubas and Pittsburgh for one Sidney Crosby. Seeing this, Marchand, of course, resigns, and suddenly the Bruins have their next head coach. They have a top line center, and they have a second line scoring wing that they desperately need back. Am I crazy? Am I just a complete idiot? Is that the most idiotic thing or prediction you've ever heard? Maybe. It might be the dumbest thing I've ever said, but man, stranger things have happened in this league, right? Like we're surprised all the time in this league. Crazy things happen all the time. Please remember, Like, this is a league where Wayne Gretzky got traded. So, if he gets traded, anybody can get traded. Crosby can get traded. Like, and it's probably, quite honestly, should be the thing that Pittsburgh does, right? They should go and get the treasure trove of assets they can for him and reset that franchise for a number of years. I think Boston would be a heck of a fit, especially if Sully comes over here to coach. Yeah, tell me how nuts I am. Please leave those comments down below. I would love to hear from you on that. Um, who do you think will be the next head coach in Boston? Who do you think it will be? Who do you want it to be? Two different things possibly. So leave those comments down below. Would love to hear from you guys on that. And with that, I am going to wrap this up and get myself to bed because it is Sunday night. I do want to thank you all for watching and listening tonight. If you do like what you're hearing here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.